Point of order, the Honourable Darren Hughes.
The previous speaker, Mrs. Tolley, started her speech at 5:39. My understanding was that valedictories were normally 15 minutes and length.
That's not a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, it's a great privilege for me.
Order. Go for the call. The Honourable Tony Ryall.
Mr. Speaker, it's a great privilege for me to be able to stand in the House today and support the speech of the Prime Minister for the tremendous leadership that he's provided New Zealand. You know, it was a statement that really showed the failed policies of the past, the failed policies of the previous Labour government, a government that just cannot be remembered for anything other than the people who squandered the best years this country has seen for many, many years. So when they had an opportunity to invest in putting more money in people's pockets to reward New Zealanders for their hard work through tax reductions, they said no. When they had an opportunity to improve the standards in New Zealand schools, they said no, we'd rather have some pin badges that we put around. Was that what's up? That was the education policy. But now that we've got an education policy that's being rolled across the country with great support from parents and right-thinking teachers, 74% of New Zealanders are backing national standards. 74% of New Zealanders are backing national standards because they know we've got to do more for the 1 in 5 kids who are leaving school unable to read or write, and that is not good enough. And it's good that we've got strong support across the country. You know, the unions and the media can beat it up as much as they like, but in the end, parents know that they should have the information on how well their children are doing. And the Minister of Education, Anne Tolley, is going to provide them with Plunkett book-type charts that will show parents how well their kids are doing and what they need to do to work with their teachers to help their children get ahead. And we are totally in support of that. I also want to back the Prime Minister when he talks about the need for a growth-enhancing New Zealand tax system. Order. Because we simply have to do more to create the incentives for people to work hard, improve their skills and get ahead, to encourage and boost productivity, and to be fair for all New Zealanders. Now, the Prime Minister's been very clear. This government is considering a tax switch that will get this economy moving further ahead from what we've inherited from the previous government. How many people here know that this crowd were using statistics to justify their growth, which have all had to be changed? How many people here know that there have finally been, the Minister of Finance has revealed that there have been revisions to official statistics issued late last year, which show that in the last 3 years of that failed government, before the impact of the global financial crisis, our economy grew by less than 1% a year. Well, they didn't tell you that before the election, did they, New Zealand? They didn't tell you that before the election, did they, New Zealand? They didn't tell you about how they were wasting the best years in a generation. The best years in a generation. And so we want to say to New Zealanders that our Prime Minister has set out a plan, a comprehensive plan of work that this government is going to do to improve public services in New Zealand, to move resources from the back office onto the front line to provide a safer New Zealand, a smarter New Zealand and a healthier New Zealand. And Judith Collins is providing strong leadership in a portfolio area that lacked leadership for 9 years. When we needed a tougher approach in our prisons, when we needed stronger support for the New Zealand Police, who did we get? George Hawkins, Damien O'Connor and Phil Goff. That's all they could provide. But Judith Collins has delivered. More police into South Auckland, a focus on the crimes that matter, and she's delivering a much tougher penal system in New Zealand, which sends a much clearer message to the criminal element that this government is going to deal with you, that this government is going to deal with you. It's also a government that's capped the public service. The public service, the core public service, grew by almost 50% in the 9 years of the Labour government. By almost 50% in the 9 years of the Labour government. 5% a year, year on, year on, year on, year on. More growth in bureaucracy, more growth in policy analysts, more growth in officials in Wellington, and less service for the public. So as part of our responsibility to have the public service backing the economic recovery New Zealanders need, we've capped the core public service, we've capped the growth. That is a major achievement by this government. We've capped the growth. But at the same time, we've moved a lot of extra resource into improving frontline services. More frontline people at the desks in the police services, more frontline people in the prison services, more frontline people when it comes to SIFs, and more frontline people providing support for beneficiaries in our various WINS offices. So we're lifting the quality of public services with what we've inherited. But goodness, wouldn't it have been easier to be in government as they were, when there was more and more and more money every year, billions of dollars extra every year, and they still couldn't deliver the quality public services that New Zealanders need. Year on year, more money into the health service, fewer people getting care. Year on year, more money into the health service, but fewer people getting the care that they need. More and more money going into bureaucracy, less and less money going into the frontline services that back New Zealanders. And while we're talking about backing New Zealanders, what about encouraging innovation and the great work that the Science, Research and Technologies Ministers are doing to invest in research, science and technology and roll out the primary growth program? I just think that is superb, and there's real opportunities there for New Zealand. And boosting infrastructure. The Finance Minister in Auckland today, tomorrow with the Education Minister, talking about what this government is doing to have strong investment in our infrastructure. They talked about it for 9 years. Remember that? All the strategies, all the plans, all the directions. Annette King launching a new road plan every 5 minutes, but never a new road. We've had a paper road. That's right, Annette King and her paper roads. We've started large new state highway programs in Christchurch, the Waikato and Auckland. Real progress on Auckland's rail network. The fibre, the 1.5 ultra-fast broadband. Huge investment in schools. Minister of Education Anne Tolley is putting tens of millions of dollars into building new schools in our communities that party opposite never would. And this government is also putting millions and millions of more dollars into building our health infrastructure in New Zealand and making sure we back it with the improved quality services that New Zealanders want. Mr. Speaker, it's appalling the difficulty we've inherited from that previous government, but this government is determined to make the changes that we need to get this country moving, and people should be confident that the leadership of the Prime Minister and the leadership of the Finance Minister and the strong support of the parties that support the National Party are delivering New Zealanders the future that they deserve. And I think the Minister of Education was right. I don't think the Labour Party lives in the real world. Trevor Mallard lectures the Parliament on education. He doesn't realise that when he was last a teacher 26 and a half years ago, education was different. And it's moved on from when he was a teacher 26 and a half years ago, when he first came to Parliament 26 years ago, that times have changed. And parents have higher expectations of the schools than when Trevor Mallard was there. 26 years ago, he was last in front of a classroom. And they want to learn. And that is why we've got our national standards policy, our youth guarantee, a huge investment in education for New Zealand. And the Prime Minister is providing the leadership that this country needs. And that is why that party opposite, as has been said, struggling with relevance deprivation syndrome, will continue to grasp at straws and lose every opportunity they have to show New Zealand that they could
Order.
once again be a government